All right, hey, um, good morning, Mr. Robinson here. You know that already, right? So, look, I'm going to go through the PowerPoint today. This is going to help you with the assignment, as it always does, or as it always should, as well as the knowledge that I'm giving you. Okay, so make sure you are listening, so you know that you are picking up what I'm putting down right here. All right. This is the section entitled "Changing Ways of Life." All right, but it also has to do with that's also the name of the assignment. So there you go. Now I'm going to go through it right here. So changing ways of life during the 1920s. All right, some things are changing in America, and it was kind of a big deal. There are several constitutional amendments that had recently taken place during the time that would affect how how Americans live. All right, so look, coat's coming off. All right, what I tell you happens when the coat comes off. It means it's a work day. Time to work. The coat is off. So, anyways, let me get to it. The let's see, I got a North Carolina Tar Heel tie, match the coat. All right, because I'm a winner. I like to pull for winners, and you guys are winners too, because you're in my class. So here we go. Boom. All right. Now there are differences. This still exists today, but during the time, because the country was kind of urbanizing a little bit more, you have differences in our urban population and difference in rural populations. But it says there's just some background. People had left the small farming communities because America was urbanizing, so that's where the jobs were in urban areas. So in urban areas, behavior tends to be a little more liberated or liberalized than in rural, more conservative areas. Today, and still it was then, all right, alcohol consumption, gambling, casual dating, these things were not looked favorably upon in rural areas, but now in urban areas, they're a lot more widely accepted. All right. And so again, behavior today is still more liberated in urban areas. Now, the big thing here, the big thing we're going to get at is the constitutional amendment with the 18th Amendment. So it's a prohibition. All right. Now, you're going to need to know this for the assignment. Prohibition, or the standard class will. Prohibition, who wanted it? Specifically, women wanted it. Well, why would women want prohibition? And remember that temperance movement I talked about? The reason women wanted prohibition is because they felt like the consumption of alcohol could tear apart families. Religious leaders, they also wanted it because the use of alcohol was seen as lessening morality. All right, a lot of crime. It can lead to a lot more crime uh, and a lot more unethical behavior. All right, the use of alcohol or the overuse of alcohol can. So prohibition again more widely accepted in rural communities because in the cities, even today, more urban areas, there's more tends to be more drug use, more alcohol consumption in an urbanized area. So that is those are some things that are going on now. Another group that uh, may have wanted prohibition would be like factory owners or people who ran factories because they felt like that if the workers were consuming alcohol, they wouldn't be as productive. All right, so that could be another group. So you get an 18th Amendment. All right, reformers they had considered alcohol corruption or cause of corruption and or cause of unethical morality. So you have there's also a Volstead Act, which basically established a bureau to enforce the 18th Amendment. All right, but and I typically will show my class videos about this. It was poorly funded, so even though it was like if if I have a classroom rule or something, all right, say no cell phones, okay, but then that's a rule. But if I'm not going to enforce that rule, is it really a rule? You know, so in a lot of cases, this 18th Amendment was not enforced because the bureau that was supposed to enforce it was poorly funded. All right, a lot of the well, you have like the FBI, and then as well as these police agencies, they're poorly funded, so they can't successfully enforce the 18th Amendment. So what you have is you have places where alcohol is consumed. Right, places called speakeasies, basically an underground nightclub or a saloon where a person could go and get an alcoholic drink if they wanted to, even though it was against the law. All right, you know, there's a constitutional amendment saying no. There were still places where it could be found. So just like today, there's often people that use illegal drugs. Okay, even though it's illegal, people still find the ways to around it, a way to use it. So in other places, penthouses, tenements, hardware stores, all these places, a person, if they wanted a drink, trust me, they could find one, wanted an alcoholic drink. Bootleggers, this is another group of people that they basically bootleggers are people that smuggled in alcohol from Canada, from Cuba, the West Indies, and the way that it kind of starts, if you follow NASCAR, which is it's not my favorite sport, but it's probably my second favorite sport, auto racing. If you follow that, so the way NASCAR started was these bootleggers would kind of soup up or power up their cars to run from the police. And so that's where they started. And then it became, well, who has the fastest car between the bootleggers? And then next thing you know, it develops into an actual sport, the sport of NASCAR. Another thing or students are always interested in is the rise of organized crime and these bootlegging empires. All right, the big one here is the Chicago syndicate of one Al Capone. All right, Al Capone became a notorious gangster and had a bootlegging empire, but he's not the only one. Okay, Bugsy Siegel, there are a lot of them that had um, that had that profited off bootlegging. So a lot of people profited off prohibition because now alcohol is illegal. So if you have it, you can charge more for it. All right. So by the mid 1920s, not many Americans supported prohibition. A lot of people, remember, people in rural areas, they were the ones who pushed for it initially, and they still supported it because they felt like it strengthened moral values there. But eventually, this idea of prohibition, this experiment, it only lasts about 13, 14 years. In 1933, hey, that's it. You know, also, there's some other things the country's going through a Great Depression at this time, which we'll get to later. But there's a 21st Amendment which overturns the 18th Amendment. The other thing I'm going to go over here is this event called the Scopes Trial. So you have not only there a clash in rural and urban areas, okay, but science and religion are starting to clash too. And something called this movement towards fundamentalism or a literal interpretation of the Bible. And this is more seen in conservative rural areas. So what happens here is there was a Scopes trial, okay? A Scopes trial. This guy, John Scopes, he was teaching, he was a substitute teacher, but he was teaching the theory of evolution. Well, that's taught today, right? Okay, I'm not a science teacher, but I'm pretty sure it's taught today. So in Tennessee, all right, which tends to be a more conservative rural area, they said, no, you can't teach that. And so next thing you know, he's going on trial here for teaching evolution. There's a fight between evolution and the role of science and religion in public schools. So there's a couple characters here, which is on the assignment. You get a guy who is representing the basically the more conservative side, the more religious side, and that is William Jennings Bryan. If you remember who that was, the presidential candidate for the 1892 and 1896 election that gave that Cross of Gold speech. Well, you should know it because guess what? I taught it to you. So you should know that. And then on the other side, the guy who is pushing or arguing for the teaching of evolution is Clarence Darrow, another prominent attorney. So just now, there's also I provided a link to the textbook section where you can look at that as well. And then we'll get into women in the 1920s later. Okay, probably tomorrow.